Welcome back to the SMT Media Network. In today's video, we discuss the 2007 Cleveland Cavaliers. I want to talk a little bit about that team. I want to discuss kind of where LeBron was in his career, what the Cavs had done with their roster to help LeBron, find and achieve not only individual success, but team success. Because, we got to be honest, right? You play to win the games. You play to win championships, regardless of what he says on his podcast. That's what it's all about. It's what it's always been about. It's what it's always going to be about. Now, in the 2007 NBA playoffs, and I'll speak namely to the 2007 Eastern Conference Finals and the NBA Finals. A lot of people remember the 2007 Eastern Conference Finals between the Cavaliers and the Pistons, and they remember LeBron's Game 5, which was one of the most incredible, unique solo efforts by an NBA player. We remember that game, Game 5, where LeBron ripped off 20-plus points in a row for the Cavs, outscoring not only the entire Pistons team, but then, willing his team to a victory in a close, I think it was either OT or double OT, I forget. But I remember watching that game and thinking to myself, man, that is a special performance. LeBron, it was amazing, right? And to think he was just emerging as a player. He was either 22 or 23 years old. He was young, right? He was coming into his own. His trajectory was to be a superstar. It was always going to be that because of how amazing he was. The Cleveland Cavaliers in 2007, and specifically in the series, they held Detroit under 100 points in 5 of the 6 games in that series. And actually, they held them under 90 points in 5 of those 6 games. The series only went 6 games. And they held the Pistons under 80 points 2 times. So this is going to be the theme of this video. LeBron's amazing Game 7, where he was otherworldly, right? But there's something else that was happening in this series. Something else that gets overlooked all the time. I'll speak to just all the games in the series. Game 1, LeBron had 10 points. He had 0 free throw attempts, 0 3-point attempts. He had 4 points in the first half, 2 points in the fourth quarter. He wasn't seemingly engaged in the game in a way that was going to be conducive to winning. However, right, Larry Hughes, Andy Varejao, Big Z, several of his teammates outscored him in that Game 1, which makes you think, okay, well, it's Game 1. LeBron's a young player. Maybe the moment was too big for him at that time, right? The Cavs ended up losing Game 1, 79-76. When your defense holds the other team to 79 points, they just need more from you offensively, which I think to that point, it was pretty clear. Like, LeBron was their best offensive player. They needed him to be that offensive force if they were going to win games. But it was pretty clear that the defense was elite. Game 2, LeBron was better, 7 of 19 shooting. Obviously, he was looking to get his points. But the Cavs ended up losing 79-76 again. This time, while LeBron was a little bit better, the Cavs supporting cast wasn't good. They were pretty bad. LeBron also had 6 turnovers. So I'm not going to blame LeBron for the Game 2 loss. I don't think blame needs to be assigned for that one. Right? I just think that the rest of the Cavaliers didn't do much. And that's probably why they lost that game, because it was close. It was a one-possession game. Game 3, Bron was good. Cavs won 88-82. Game 4, Bron was good. They won 91-87. Notice these games are defensive struggles. Notice that they're tight within just a couple of possessions. Boobie Gibson in Game 4 dropped 21 points. Drew Gooden had 19. A much more complete effort from the Cavs. So to that point, you look at the series and how it was going, the Cavs had turned the tide. Right, the first couple of games off to a bad start. They kind of correct some things. I think Mike Brown deserves more credit than what he gets for in that run for the Cavaliers, making those adjustments. Game 5, LeBron, one of the most unique and special performances ever by an NBA player. Goes without saying what he was able to do. Knocking down shots, getting to the rim. Defensively, again, the Cavs were stout in those moments. You had to stop the Pistons if you were going to win this game, because, LeBron did carry offensively. Like, they weren't doing anything else except going to LeBron. So, that is a huge game and a unique game that we really haven't seen much like that in an NBA game. There's only been a few performances that are even comparable, right? That belong in that same status. So game 5, we know what that was about. Game 6, the Cavs won by 16. They closed out the series. Bron had 20, 14, and 8, so he was good. He didn't have to do all the scoring, obviously very different than game 5. Boobie Gibson chipped in 31 points, 5 of 5 from 3. So how did this season go, and how are people characterizing this series? The Cavs were elite defensively. They had been elite defensively. It was their calling card. Their calling card was not LeBron scoring, right? They needed LeBron to score. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is their offense was not good. It was average. It was pedestrian. What made the Cavs able to beat the Pistons in 07 in that conference finals was their elite defense. Every single game, the Cavs defense was spectacular. The huge game 5 from LeBron will always be a big part of NBA history. The huge game 6 from Boobie is another thing that we need to talk about as being part of this series that you can't overlook. But the only thing from games 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 is the Cavs defense. And nobody talks about it. Everybody says LeBron carried those bums to the finals. I don't allow this sort of thing to happen on my watch. He did not carry bums to the finals. Those quote-unquote bums were so elite defensively, they held the former champion Detroit Pistons to under 90 points in 5 of those 6 games and under 80 points twice. And they lost both of those games that they held them under 80 points. But they stuck with it. They were resilient. They had their eyes on the prize, and they wanted a chance to get to the NBA Finals. So as spectacular as LeBron's Game 5 was, as amazing as Boobie's Game 6 was, and LeBron is and was an amazing player, we are not going to allow the narrative to be spun that he carried bums to the finals. That is so wrong and factually incorrect. Those were good players. Those were great defenses. Perennially great defenses. The entire time Mike Brown was there, their calling card was defense. That's how they won games. That's how they got to the finals. That's how they made runs through the playoffs and eventually fizzled. Obviously, they weren't able to produce a championship in Cleveland under Mike Brown in LeBron's first stint. But I am not going to let it happen. Nobody is going to tell me that a team perennially as good defensively as the Cavaliers in that first LeBron era and rebounding, top 5 rebounding teams, top 5 defensive teams, top 3 some years, and then in the subsequent years after this as they tweaked the roster, right, 08, 09, elite 3-point shooting, like the Mo Williams years, right, bringing in Wally Zerbiak. Their 3-point shooting was very good. Anthony Parker, like these guys were knocking down shots. They were not bums. In fact, when Larry Hughes got to Cleveland, he was averaging over 20 points a game with the Wizards, and he was injury riddled with Cleveland. It's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that the team that Cleveland was trying to build every year for LeBron, the Cavs were trying to build a team. That is, they did not neglect to try to give him a roster to try to help him win. It is not properly characterized. But nobody is going to get away with telling me that he carried bums to the finals. Those teams were elite defensively, phenomenal defensively, and they showed up every single game. Go to the 2007 NBA Finals. They look just like the 2007 Eastern Conference Finals, where you saw defensive struggles. Go look at the scoring differential between the Spurs and the Cavs. And LeBron did not have a good series. I'm not saying that any of the other Cavs had a great series, but I did not see LeBron having any of those Game 5 performances against the Spurs, because the Spurs forced him to be a player where his strengths weren't able to be utilized, which obviously was attacking the rim. They packed the paint. They made him, kind of live outside of the paint. They did not give him a lot of opportunities. They boxed him out, right? And that has to do with the fact that he was a limited player at the time. His jump shot has evolved over time. It's gotten much more reliable. He became a much more diverse scorer through the Miami years, for example. And it started happening at the end of Cleveland too, right? He got better over time, but he did not carry bums to the finals. Those are lies. That is all cap. And it is it is mischaracterizing several very good players that I'm sure that at the time LeBron was very grateful to have. But revisionist history, everybody's going to say the same things, right? Who was that? Who were they? They didn't do anything. Well, at the time, they were an elite defense. And it's just unjust to characterize those guys as bums. Unbelievable. It's not going to happen. Not under my watch. The 2007 run for the Cavaliers was a really good one. They were not bums. Those Cavs were very, very good. And shout out to those players for being a part of a good run and helping LeBron ascend through his career. I hope he appreciates that. I hope more people do too, because this was pretty damn disrespectful when you hear LeBron shitting on his former teammates, saying he didn't have enough help and role players. It's just not properly characterized, and it's all lies. Anyways, let me know what you guys think about this. Tell me what your memories are of the 2007 Eastern Conference Finals and Finals. Remember, the Cavs got swept in 4 in some very, very close games. If you guys want to discuss that, we can make a video. Let me know. Drop me some comments, like, share, subscribe. We'll see you guys soon on the next one.